big brains like I'm MJ. I'm the GOAT, I ain't never had a sensei. Shaking big, stay straight, I make your leg break. Game face, I'ma shoot this by the make rain. Or I'm driving in the lane with a stick shift. Going back to the crib with a pick six. Running on every time I make a wrist flick. We dropping banners, baby, all we do is get chips. Crisscross on my hustle like I'm Rick Ross. I'm like Dollar Dang Gang whenever I hit that tick-tock. Whenever I hit on with the stiff arms, I get ready, cause boy, we about to kick off. Hey, what up, y'all? I hope you like that intro. I know it's a little bit outdated. That's when I was doing a little bit of a sports podcast with a couple of my other boys. We were talking a lot about betting lines with basketball and football and baseball. This is right before Corona hit, so I just didn't feel right, jumping into the podcast without a, intro song, you know what I'm saying? So, but, this is exciting times because in an age where we don't have sports right now, it's a little weird, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, this is just crazy. It's been almost like 4 months now that we haven't had sports. And, you got like gambling sites like Bovada and Bet Online. They're actually they put out lines on Twitch, so that and they do Madden simulations and 2K simulations and MLB The Show simulations, and they put out spreads out there. And I was getting involved in that a little bit, so it was a little fun. But it's not the same as real sports. But let's just get into the the 2K COVID Cup tourney real quick, because this is exciting. I haven't been a part of anything like this before, and I thought this is a really cool idea by Nin, and I'm really glad we're going through with this. So basically, I just want to run through all the teams. So the way I'm gonna start off is I'm gonna evaluate what I think from my previous 2K experiences and 2K knowledge. I'm going to start off with the worst teams first, right? We're just going to get them out the way right off the bat. Talk about strengths and weaknesses, and maybe, give a tip or two of what I would do with this team or whatnot. But and then we're going to work our way up to like the true contenders and who I think is the crowd favorite. So I'm going to jump in and say I'm going to jump in with, the worst team all the way up to the crowd favorite, or what I think is the best team. So at number 10, who I don't think it's a surprise for everybody. It could be a surprise. I mean, I don't think this is the worst team talented wise. But in terms of the makeup and how well this roster is put together, it doesn't make sense to me. And again, you guys didn't, draft these rosters based on 2K. Y'all drafted it on fantasy. But with Tim's team, it's not the least talented team. We'll get to that later. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, 2K wise, right? If we're putting together a 2K simulation and these guys are actually going to be balling out in the court, it's not about stats, it's about wins, then it doesn't make sense, because you got, Jokic as your centerpiece, but you got 3 other bigs on this roster, 4 other bigs on this roster that you could, plug in. But where are you going to put them in? Most rosters have a 3 big man rotation, maybe a 4 big man rotation. But he's got 5 guys here, and his wings are very weak. He doesn't even have wings, to be honest. So we're looking at this roster. You got Jokic, right? You got to play him. You got to start him, right? Jokic is the best center here. And then after that, I don't know. Who do you plug in at power forward? You got Kevin Love and Lauri Markkanen, who I think are the same player. You could put DeAndre Ayton there, but he doesn't spread the floor the same way. You could put Rudy Gobert at center and then Jokic at power forward. But then, I mean, it gets too big at that point. And then you get maybe exploited by other stretch fours. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he, utilizes all these big men, because the thing about 2K, it's all about your best players, and his best players happen to be 4 or 5 big guys. I really like Ja Morant. I think he's very exciting. I think on 2K, he's not rated as high as as some people might want to put him at. But the other problem I think about this team is that they don't have a real true wing. His wings are like Kevin Huerter and Duncan Robinson, right? And those guys are actually his weakest players. But it makes more sense to plug them into the lineup as shooters. Because can you see John Morant and Lonzo Ball work together as in the backcourt? I don't know. I think Ball needs the ball in his hands, and Ja needs the ball in his hands. So, and who are you gonna plug at small forward? Yeah, you might see Tim get a little creative and might go with a 3 big man lineup. You might see him move Lauri Markkanen at the small forward position, or Kevin Love at the small forward position, just to get a shooter out there. But I just don't see. That could easily be exploited by other teams. If you put Kevin Love at small forward, he's getting cooked. So I think this is not the least talented team because Jokic is a star, a true superstar, but it just doesn't make sense as a compilation of players. Just doesn't make sense to me. So that's who I have in number 10. At number 9. I think most people would have thought this would have been the worst team. I have them at number 9 because at least it makes sense, right? It's balanced. It's balanced in terms of theory, but as I would say, my rules in 2K is like I said, you could manipulate as much as you want, but you're only going to affect it at the minuscule level. But it's all about your star players, and unfortunately, Johnny has no star players. And I understand why. I know he drafted Steph Curry first round, and I think he had John Collins in the second round. So it's a shame. It's a shame that, this is all supposed to be about fantasy purposes. Now we've moved this. We shifted over to 2K. And if he had Steph Curry and John Collins on his roster right now, for one, he wouldn't be stacking the other teams. And for two, he would actually have a chance. But at number 9, to me, him and Tim's team don't really have a chance. They might steal a series, maybe one round. But I don't see them going all the way, especially, and it makes sense, right? They're the 2 worst teams in fantasy, right? So they were number 9. They finished number 9 and number 10 in the standings. They're number 9 and number 10 here. It just makes sense to me because their rosters they're not good. But looking at Johnny's team, he's got a balanced starting lineup. It reminds me so much of like a Spurs team. Well, I can't really say that because they had stars, but it reminds me of like the Pistons, right? Or the Raptors without Kawhi, right? Like this is it's a balanced line. Or you could say Indiana, right? Indiana doesn't really have a true star. And he's got 2 pieces from Indiana here with Oladipo and Sabonis. Those are 2 solid players. Vucci, solid player, borderline all-star. Kyle Lowry, all-star, right? But not really an all-star, right? I mean, when you think of Kyle Lowry, you don't really think all-star. Gallinari, cool. He's a solid scorer, 3-point shooter, big man that can play the both forward positions. These are solid guys. But then you look at it, the rest of the roster is just the same kind of guys. Brogdon and TJ Warren and Valanciunas and Nurkic. These are just this is the whitest team I've ever seen in my life, bro. Like I've never seen a team so white, bro. Like on 2K, you know what I'm saying? Like this everybody is white on. He's got every itch dude on this team, and like he's got every Croatian and friggin' dude from Eastern Europe. And so to me, it's funny. I look at the way I also look at 2K is I look at your top 10 guys, right? And for me, I like to play an 8-man rotation personally because I say feed all the minutes to my best guys. But if we're looking at depth too, and because we're talking about the long run, I'm thinking about my top 10 guys. I want my 5 starters and I want my 5 reserves. And to me, he's got a balanced bench. He's got, if I were to, put together a lineup, you have his best guys out there. And then, when you go to the bench with Brogdon or TJ Warren or Valanciunas and Nurkic, these are solid guys. These are starters right now today. So they can jump right in and fill. You don't feel like it's going to be a big decline from his starting lineup. But again, this is a 10 team tournament in which you have all the best players on stacked onto these teams. It's not 30 teams out here. It's 10 teams. So most of these teams out here have 5 all-stars. And that is the reason why I'm going to get in, and I'm going to talk about Twan's team at number 8. I don't think it's a bad team. I don't think it's just a team that's going to win, right? And that's why I don't want to join, because I'm not, like Ronnie said, this feels like dead money, right? Yeah, even if it is $15. And I love to gamble. I do. I mean, I like getting my money in there because I like to have fun. It's just, to me, when you got money involved, it's fun. But even myself, bro, I just know, bro, like this, I got like a 3% chance to win with Twan's team. And so that's why I didn't want to join. I just felt like, because in 2K, it's all about star power. It really is. That's why eventually I'm going to get up this list. But Twan's team, you got Embiid, and then that's it. Right. And to me, when I look at this roster, I'm going to go through with Twan's team and talk about it. But, I know it's not going to be in the tournament. But this is what I would have done. When I figured out that, Joe and Vin had opted in, I was like, okay, well, what would be my lineup? I would have started Embiid, obviously. And then, my next best player rating wise was Capella. So that makes it difficult for me, because when you have so much investment, when your top 2 guys can't be together on the floor at the same time, it's tough. It's real tough. You can't make that same impact, because Embiid's going to be hogging 35, 38 minutes. Where I'm going to play Capella? I'm going to play him at power forward? I don't think so. And, not especially in 2K, and especially in a league where it's all about shooting. It really is all about shooting, especially in 2K. It's about shooting too. And so I would have started Embiid and then had Ibaka, right? I would have had Ibaka at power forward. I think I like his defense a little bit more than Marcus Morris. And I think Ibaka can hit those threes. And then I would have had Shai Gilgeous at point, Zach LaVine at shooting guard, and then Jaylen Brown at small forward. I know he can play, both wings, and he would be my best two-way player, right? And then, I got some good scores on this team, LaVine and Shai Gilgeous. But, Shai is not Westbrook. He is not Steph Curry. He is not Dame Lillard. So that I'm at a disadvantage here. LaVine is solid. Jaylen Brown is solid, but it's okay. So in theory, when you look at this team, I was like, okay, this could work, and B would have to dominate. But then what happens when I go up against freaking motherfucking Mike's team? Got Steph Curry and Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns and Siakam. I don't have stoppers on my team. I might be able to put up 105, 110 points, but that motherfucker gonna drop 135 because he got Steph, he got Siakam, he got Book. That's 90 points right there. I didn't even add in Cat. I didn't even add in his bench. So like that to me is scary. So that's why I couldn't get into Twan's team, because compared to everyone else's team, it's thin. It's thin. The bench is fine. Gordon Hayward, Marcus Morris, Schroeder, Seth Curry. Okay, yeah, whatever. But it's a solid bench, but it's not gonna put me over the hump when I'm going up against Ronnie, who got Doncic and Giannis. That's 2 90s right there. They top 5 guys in 2K. So that to me is sick. So Twan's team just didn't have enough juice. But the thing is that the top 7 teams are so stacked. I think after this point, this was actually the line that I drew where I said, okay, if I can't get this team, I'm not joining. And I have Joe's team ranked at number 7. And if Joe had opted out, I would have joined, because I think he has enough juice to be able to get through. A little bit of luck, a little bit of you maybe out coaching, adjustments, whatever. Maybe that's enough just to get you through, get you to win. Against some game 7s down the stretch. Joe's team is very solid. Is not stacked, but is solid. I like it because it has. You could think of it as like 3 all-stars, right? You got AD, right? Bonafide superstar. Jimmy Butler, all-star caliber player. Kemba Walker, all-star. I was an all-star this year. If I had Joe's team, because he has other guys like Jamal Murray and Andrew Wiggins, and I think he has Otto Porter Jr. and stuff like that. So who am I? Obviously you're starting those three guys. Then you got Aldridge, right? Are you playing AD at power forward? Or are you playing at center, right? I like Aldridge at center and then AD at power forward. It just makes the most sense, right? Because those are clearly his best players. But then, you could make an argument, well, who's playing the number 2 spot? Are you going to move Jimmy at the number 3, or are you going to keep him at the number 2 and then start Wiggins? I like Buddy in the starting lineup because he's a shooter. And like I said, shooting is a big thing. And Andrew Wiggins is a scorer, but you don't need you don't need go-to offensive threats on this team because you got Kemba, you got AD. Jimmy Butler could be thrown into that mix. Hield is just really good as a shooter to help spread that floor, to help guys like Kemba and Jimmy Butler to get to the hole. AD, spread the floor out. Aldridge can hit those mid-range shots. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. I was also theory crafting. I don't know what the bracket looks like right now, but I think there was a time where I think with the current, if it were to go 1 through 10, I think he would have been lined up with Johnny or somebody. I forgot who, but the thing with Joe's team is that he does have some utility. A guy like Brook Lopez is very useful. I think he has Brook Lopez in his lineup. But a guy like Brook Lopez is very useful because let's say you don't want to go with Aldridge, you can go with Brook Lopez because you want big bodies to guard guys like Embiid or I think that's who it was. It would have went up against Twan's team. So like going up against somebody like Embiid, you stretch it out. You got Brook Lopez who can shoot threes. He's a stretch 5. Now you got 5 bona fide shooters out there. They can all shoot. AD capable of shooting. Brook Lopez a good shooter. Jimmy Butler, Buddy Hield, Kemba Walker would have been really cool to see. Jamal Murray off the bench. Andrew Wiggins would have been really cool to see. I think Joe has a chance. I don't think it's a strong chance. I think it's a chance that he can, with some utilization of particular niche players, I think he could, pull off, one win or maybe 2 wins, get through 2 rounds, so that is cool. I don't know if he'll go all the way, but I think he has a shot to get to the chip if he gets a little lucky. So moving on to number 6. I think some people will be surprised with this one, and trust me, man. Look, every year in Johto League, man, I always pick Unu's teams as one of the teams I like. Every year, I always like his teams, but we're talking 2K here. This is not fantasy, and to me, the reason why I put Unu here at number 6, and don't get me wrong, at number 6 he could still win because I think the field is open right now. The field is open. He can still win. He's got a chance to win. But the same way I look at Tim's team, I kind of look at Unu's team. The way I look at Unu's team is it's more niche, right? It's not that's flex. So flexibility to me is a very important thing, right? If you got guys like LeBron, Doncic, Giannis, Ben Simmons, guys you can move around, the flexibility of being able to move guys around in multiple positions, I think is more important today in today's basketball, and that's 2K included. See, we're talking 2K10, you gotta stick with those traditional lineups, but we're talking 2K20 now, right? And right now, guys who can play multiple positions and be a threat at multiple positions and also be a factor defensively at multiple positions, they're very important. And to me, when we're looking at roster makeup, Unu's team is niche, right? If I was Unu and I had a choice of a coach and a team or a playbook, whatever, I'll be picking D'Antoni's team. For one, he has the focal point already. He's got James Harden, right? That's the guy you revolve your team around. But the thing here is that, the cool part about this is that he does have something going on for him because his roster is what I would consider an ideal Rockets team. Because we talked about, when Russell came over, you remember when Russell Westbrook came here, we were like, oh man, he might not be a good fit. Chris Paul's a better fit, right? Chris Paul could shoot. But let's say if you just take out Chris Paul and you took out Russell Westbrook and you throw in Trae Young. Well, now we're talking. This is an ideal Rockets lineup, right? You got James Harden and Trae Young, two of the game's best shooters, right? Trae Young's 3-point rating is above 90. It's something like that. It's crazy, right? He can just flat out shoot, right? And then you say, well, who's your number 3 guy? Well, Porzingis. He's the reason why the Rockets like to go small, they like to go up tempo, and they like to have a 3-point shooter at that 4 spot. They like to have PJ there or whoever at Covington. They like to have a shooter there at that 4 spot. They want to have threats on the 3-point line at all times. And Porzingis can shoot. Remember, before when we were in championship mode, we had Chris Paul and James Harden, and there was some talk back then when Porzingis was still with the Knicks. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was real small talk. It wasn't nothing big. It was just rumors on the rumor mill. But there was talk about bringing Porzingis to the Rockets, or bringing someone like Kevin Love to the Rockets, because we wanted that number 3 guy. We wanted that number 3 guy to be a stretch 4, and it just would make sense, right? Well, here we're talking about 2K simulations. We're not talking about right now to current day Rockets. We're not talking about Rockets in the past. This is 2K, baby. We could make anything happen. And right here we got Trae, James, and Porzingis. That's a crazy trio, right? And then Adebayo is just like another Capella, right? To me, I think it's better, better defensively. And Adebayo was an all-star this year. I think this is just a very ideal Rockets-esque lineup. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that Unu's got a shot, but it's too niche to me, right? To me, this roster seems to only play one way, and it's all about shooting. And I didn't really keep up too much at the end of Johto League, but if I were to make a guess, Unu probably was a top team in terms of 3-pointers made, because he's also got stretch 5s on his team. He's got guys like Christian Wood and Bertans. They could shoot 3s, and they play at the 5 spot. So if you throw Adebayo out, now you got shooters at all positions. So it'll be interesting to see what Unu would do at the number 2 spot. Which I don't know if he'll, just plug Drew Holiday in there, or maybe he'll get another shooter out there as Van Vliet. I don't know if DeJounte Murray would fit there, but it'll be interesting to see. But I like this team. It's exciting to watch. And when you got James Harden, that means you're going to be dropping buckets. But the problem with this team that scares me is that does it have enough defensively? Right. So, to me, flexibility is one thing. And then you gotta have defense too. This team has a lot of offense, but I don't know if it has enough juice to go all the way, but it can. With a little bit of luck and some James Harden magic, Trae Young magic, it can happen. So that's why I have him at number 6. And that number 5, I think this is where we start to head into borderline contender. This is where I draw the line. At number 5, I'm going to draw the line here, and then after this, we're starting to get into real, true contenders. These guys have a strong chance of winning. But I think right here is where you're saying, he's got a good shot to win, but it's not like phenomenal, right? I think that, he's got a shot to win. This is like Celtics territory or Toronto territory, right? I think Nin's team is at number 5. Because I just think he's got a lot of star power here. Well, you're going to say, well, Unu's got James Harden and Trae Young and Porzingis. Well, those are 3 guys. And then maybe you could throw Adebayo in there. All right, go ahead. But you got Dang. You got Bradley Beal. You got Jason Tatum. You got Chris Paul. You got Zion. Chris Middleton is an all-star in his own right, I think. I don't know, a lot of people, when they look at Middleton, they don't really think, Middleton and Kyle Lowry are kind of like 2 all-stars that are kind of like, borderline all-stars. But Middleton is a very useful asset. And so Nin's makeup, if I would have had Nin's team, this team is, to me, in my opinion, the most fun team to watch. I think is the most fun team to watch, because if I had this roster, I would go completely small. I'd just put Zion at center and then throw everybody else, just plug them in. Throw in Tatum, throw in Beal, throw in Lillard, throw in Middleton. You got pure shooters outside, pure scores outside. Who's stopping Beal? Who's stopping Lillard? Middleton is a 3-and-D, the premier 3-and-D guy in this league. Jason Tatum is a baller. You know, Zion is gonna be so fun to watch in 2K. You know, and then you got Chris Paul. See, the thing is that this team is that obviously I think right now Dame is better than Chris Paul. But you could throw it'll be weird to see, you know, if the Heat decides to move Lillard at the shooting guard when Chris Paul comes in and, you know, Chris Paul's dishing dimes to guys like Zion Williamson on the break or Jason Tatum or Middleton on the break, pulling up at the 3-point line. It'd be really cool to see. I think this team also has Lou Williams, which is, again, this is where I start to see, okay, well, maybe this is a little bit overkill on the guards. But that's why I think this is the most fun team to watch, because I think Nin, if I were him, I would not be afraid to start 4 guard lineups. I wouldn't. I'd just be like, man, you know, forget it. You know, I'm throwing in Jason at the center position, Middleton at power forward, and then Beal, Lillard, Chris Paul, or Beal, Lillard, Lou Williams, something like that, just to have pure scoring. Pure scoring. Now, in terms of ideas, the idea itself, like, okay, this is just too crazy, right? It's too crazy to go. But then when you really look at his roster, how else is he going to do it? Now, you're going to say, well, it doesn't make sense then, man. You put Tim at number 10 because he had all these bigs. Nin has all these guards, but then Nin is just way better. Well, Nin has a lot more talent on his team. And again, this is a guards league, and in 2K, the one thing I know is shooting is important. Very important. It's all about scoring, bro. It's all about scoring. And if you have the luxury to have like phenomenal defenders like Patrick Beverley, who isn't on anyone's roster, then, you know, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be about who can outscore the other opponent, you know, and especially if I'm putting it in the hands of CPUs. So here, I think Dame is just a phenomenal guy to revolve around. And when you look at this team, it doesn't have bigs, right? You can say, oh, I got Larry Nance Jr. I wouldn't even play him. I got Al Horford. Sure, I play Al Horford, but he's already considered an undersized center. I know he played center his whole career, but he was always been considered undersized at center. So if I have Horford, Garden, Embiid, that is a disadvantage already. So I might as well just throw in Zion and hope for the best. Hope his athleticism can overcome size. So this is really cool to watch. I think Nin has a shot because I think shooting is important. And I think his team shoots better than Unu's team. And that's why I have him just slightly above Unu. So to me, it's the most fun team to watch. This is the one team that caught my eye. So moving on to the contenders, I think that the top 4 teams right here, these guys they have a real shot. These 4 teams, if I were to say anything, each team has, like, you know, I think maybe somewhere like a 10 to 15% chance to win, you know, in a field of 10. If it's a field of 9, yeah, okay, you know, increase the odds to something around like 15 to like 18%, something like that. But I think Vin's team, obviously, I think I might have given it away, but I really like this team. I think everybody saw when we first discussed 2K, when we were discussing the 2K tourney and all the, you know, the conditions and all that shit. I was just thinking to myself, like, man, that is the team I want. I know everybody else is going to jump in with the team, but at the time, all I knew was that Vin, Joe, and Twan were up in the air. Nobody, you know, everybody else was plugged in. They were in, you know. I knew Ma was going to be in. I knew he was going to be in because I know he knows his roster is nice. I know Mike knows his roster is nice. So these guys have a real shot, you know. They're going to come in regardless. I didn't know if Vin would look at his. I don't know Vin well personally, so I don't know if he was gonna be like, oh man, yeah, I got LeBron James. Well, that's the reason why I have him at number 4. I got LeBron James, you know, best player in the game. Him and Giannis share the same rating at 97. I think James Harden's also 97, but LeBron, the difference between Giannis and the difference between James Harden compared to LeBron is that LeBron can play all 5 positions and you're fine. I'm telling you, at 2K, you can play him at all 5 positions. You can play him at point. He's very effective there. You can play him as a defender at the number 5 spot. He's effective there. He's got the most complete game. Inside, outside, vision, passing, defense, all that. So to revolve a team around LeBron is nice. Now, the problem here is, the thing with Vin is that I put him at number 4 because he's got a lot of star power and he's got LeBron. But there is an Achilles heel on this team. You know, you look at like Nin's team's too small, right? Unu's team is too niche, right? Joe's team doesn't have enough oomph to get him through, right? So that's why they're number 5, number 6, number 7. Vince's team still has like Achilles heels. I think for him, he doesn't have the perfect complementary pieces. I don't think Westbrook is the perfect point guard to go with him. If this was Trae Young, hell yeah, I put Vin at he would be a number 1. He would be number 1. If it wasn't Westbrook and it was Trae Young, he'd be number 1 on my list, because you got him, you got Donovan. You could make a decision whether you're gonna throw in Brandon Ingram or Tobias Harris. To me personally, I say throw in both those guys. Throw LeBron at the 5 spot. I have Tobias at number 4. I have Ingram at number 3. Donovan at number 2, and then I had Trae Young at number 1. This team, you got shooters all over the place. Let LeBron run point. You know what I'm saying? And then defensively, yes, you're gonna be too small. But this is 2K, baby. This is 2K. This is why Tim's team is number 10, because he got 5 bigs on his team. This is 2K. So looking at this, Vin has a lot of like cool pieces. You know, Bledsoe is a very good defender, you know, at point guard. I think this is that's a complimentary piece right there, right? You don't need a lot of scoring. You don't need to overflood your team with scoring like Unu and Nin. They have lots of scores, right? They're pure offense, but you need to have some stoppers too. And I think Bledsoe is a guy that is a two-way guy, right? He's a two-way guy at point guard. He's mini LeBron. And then you got LeBron. And then, you know, you got some guys who you can plug in at, you know, multiple positions. I think Brandon Ingram, you can play him from 2 to 4. Tobias Harris, 2 to 4. You know, Westbrook can play both guard positions. I think that's cool, you know, like in terms of flexibility. And you got guys who can shoot around LeBron. I think, you know, you got some peer scorers as well. It's interesting to see how he's going to tweak this line. And then you got Draymond Green on this team. So you got a very flexible defensive cog on this team. He might play Draymond with LeBron. So Vin has a lot of options, which is why I like this team a lot. There's a lot of options. You're saying, well, that would be too small. Well, I got DeAndre Jordan, man. If I need to go big, if I need to guard someone like Embiid, you know, or who else is really revolving around a center these days, right? So if I really need to stop someone who's a focal point like Embiid, like Twan's team would have been, like completely revolved around Embiid, I would have DeAndre Jordan. So what? You know what I'm saying? So there's some cool pieces here. But the big thing is that he has LeBron and complementary pieces. But it's a shame that he doesn't have phenomenal 3-point shooters on this team. It would have been really cool to see, you know, if he had Steph on this team or if he had Trae Young. Then this would have been lights out, in my opinion, the top team. But he still got a great shot, because any LeBron James led team is going to be a contender. So here we get into the top 3. And when we get into the top 3, I feel like all these teams are equal. When we're talking 1, 2, 3, the differences between the 3, it's so minuscule. I just don't think, I think they're all even. But if I had to make a choice, this is all based on opinion, right? I have Mike at number 3. And the reason why I have Mike at number 3 is because he's got obviously complete star power. And if you really look at this team, he's got 5 all-stars, right? Steph, D-Book, Siakam, Cat. Drummond, in my opinion, is a all-star caliber center. That's a sick starting lineup off the bat. It's so easy for Mike. He won't have to think about it. You know, I think a lot of times you think about matchups, you're like, oh, well, you know, who would be a better fit here? Should I throw in, you know, Jaren Jackson or no? You're throwing in Andre Drummond. Should I throw in, you know, Dinwiddie or D-Book? No, D-Book. There's no Devontae Graham or Steph. No, Steph. Like this is as clean cut from Mike. He would never have to change his lineup. And if I was Mike, I would never change my lineup. That's how good his starting lineup is. I would never change my lineup throughout the entire tourney. Steph, D-Book, Siakam, Towns, and Andre. That's a clean 5. And if you actually look at his bench, let's say you just took them all out and then you threw in his reserves. I'm looking at, Devontae Graham, Spencer Dinwiddie. Maybe that 3 spot's a little bit weird. I would put maybe like Will Barton there, but Jaren Jackson and Robinson. I think he's from the Knicks, right? Mitchell Robinson. So right there, you got pretty much a replica of what you got. It's not the same. Obviously, Steph and D-Book, phenomenal shooters. Devontae's great shooter. Spencer Dinwiddie, great scorer, could shoot. Jaren Jackson, Cat has an 85 3-point rating. That's better than James Harden. Jaren Jackson, I didn't know, also could shoot. So whatever the case, the CPU would not have to make any difficult decisions. He's just going to simply put it in and plug and play. And so I think Mike has the most balanced team in terms of scoring, size, and to me, I think Siakam's a great defender. I think he's a good defender. Cat at power forward makes him very nice as a stretch 4. Drummond's a good defender, obviously, a great rebounder. I think Jaren Jackson is an underrated defender. So he has some pieces that can guard, but also I just really feel that who's gonna guard Steph, because Steph's been overlooked this year because he had injuries. But in 2K, Steph is one of those guys that can literally break a game. Steph can win a game by himself, which is why I have this team so high, because 3-point shooting is big. It's big in 2K. If you watch 2K players play, a lot of times they just run with the Warriors and they just take Steph and Clay and they just launch all day. And it's unfair. It's not fun to play with the Denver Nuggets, because who want to be playing through Jokic passing through the high post? People want to shoot threes all day. And Steph makes it possible for you to drop 10 threes on a game. And he can do that in 2K, especially in a sim. So if I was Mike, man, I'd be nominating some kind of, probably the Warriors maybe, but maybe not the Warriors. I run a playbook or a coach that utilizes their point guard heavily. I'm talking about heavily. And maybe a lot of pick and roll. A lot of pick and roll with K Towns, with Cat, pick and roll or pick and pop. Oh my God. So sick. So imagine if you had the Warriors and then it wasn't Draymond Green, it was Cat. It'd be sick. So Mike is number 3. So at number 2, this is gonna be a little bit of suspense here, because obviously whoever I pick here at number 2, whether it be Ronnie or Mai, the other person's listening like, oh, who's number 2? Who's number 2? I got Mai at number 2 here, and if personally for me, I would really love to have his team. If I were running the 2K tournament, I would love to have his team. The reason why is because he's got Kawhi and Paul George. And I think those are very flexible pieces, bro. It's going to be a little bit weird to talk about because, I talked a lot about star power, right? If you're looking at Nin's team compared to Mai's team, he's got way more like oomph in terms of the rest of his cast. But I think Mai has, you got Kawhi, you got Paul George, and then you got John Collins. Well, you're going to say, well, Unu might be saying, well, how about my team? I got James and Trae Young and Porzingis. To me, the reason why Mai is much more higher here is because the makeup of the team makes sense. And the makeup of the team has a shot to get him far. And the reason why is because of defense, right? So I talked a lot about 3-point shooting and, it's all about, offense, shooting like that. But if you can get guys who are flexible like Kawhi and Paul George and Rocco, who he has on this roster, and Marcus Smart, who he has on this roster, you can really put the clamps down on a lot of teams. I think Mai has so much utilization that, offensively, he can get buckets. He's got D'Lo. He's got Kawhi, Paul George, John Collins can get a bucket. I can't remember what Bogdanovich he has, but if he got Bojan, then he's got scorers on the bench. To me, he has basically the Clippers. If you think about it, he's got he's got Kawhi, Paul George, and then instead of Patrick Beverly, you got Marcus Smart in there. That's cool. And then Whiteside's a phenomenal defender, and then John Collins is your inside out guy. So to me, he's got enough scoring, but he's got the best defensive team in my opinion. The best defensive team because he can lock down pretty much both wings with both those guys. Whiteside's your interior presence. Marcus Smart is your guy you put on your point guard. You put the clamps on the point guard, opposing point guard, because to me that's important. All these other teams got great point guards. That's why I ain't want Twan's team, because he got Shai Gilgeous. I don't want to play with Shai Gilgeous. I want to play with Shai Gilgeous. I want to play with Steph Curry. I want to play with Ben Simmons. I want to play with Trae Young. I want to play with Dame Lillard. I want Kemba Walker, even Russell Westbrook, even. Shit, give me Ja Morant. He probably better. I like him better. That's why, to me, having a guy like Marcus Smart is crucial, because I think a lot of teams are going to revolve. If I was Mai and I'm going up against Nin, I'd be pretty happy, because I'm like, I got guys can lock you up. If he's gonna come with me with Dame Lillard and Bradley Beal and Chris Middleton or Jason Tatum, well, let me respond back with Marcus Smart and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Try to score on me, bro. Try to score on me. And so it's going to be tough to say, because, Dame Lillard, you're going to put Marcus Smart on Dame Lillard. Well, Dame Lillard's going to drop points. Well, yeah, he's going to drop points because he's Dame Lillard, but at least make his day hard. You know what I'm saying? If he drops 30 on me off 8 for 22 shooting, I'm cool with that. My guys are going to get buckets. So I think Mai has the second best team in terms of talent. I don't think he has the most talented team. I don't think he has the second most talented team. I think in terms of talent, he's got maybe like the fifth or sixth most talented team. But what I know from 2K, I love having guys who are flexible like this, like with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and guys who can clamp like Marcus Smart, and he's got Rocco too. So let's say instead you say you throw John Collins on the bench, he needs a rest, maybe he's in foul trouble, whatever the case. And I got Marcus Smart and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Robert Covington and Whiteside. This is the most flexible defensive lineup in this 2K tournament. So I really like it. And I think if he can utilize that and use that to his advantage in terms of matchups, I think he can go a long way. I think he could get to the championship. I think he could win the whole thing. So let's cover the best team in 2K or in the Kobe Cup. I think this is the best team, period, because it just has the best raw talent. And I'm talking from 1 through 11, right? If you look at the 2K ratings from 1 through 11, they're all 80 plus rated guys. And let's say you don't play a 10-man rotation, like let's say Ronnie just throws it all on Doncic, throws it all on Giannis, throws it all on Ben Simmons. This is a team that's going to be scary. He's got pure superstar power. It's the best 1-2 tandem in terms of Doncic and Giannis, right? That's the best 1-2 tandem in terms of ratings, right? If we're talking about, like how well do they really work together, and how well does Doncic and Simmons work together? I think that's going to be the obstacle, the hurdle that's going to be the one that he has to think about. In terms of how can I get Ben Simmons and Doncic to work together? Who am I going to really have running the point? Is it going to be Simmons? Is it going to be Doncic? I think both need the ball in their hand to be effective. Because can you imagine playing Doncic at small forward and he didn't have the ball in his hands? He was just an off-ball guy. It'd be weird. Can you imagine if Ben Simmons was just an off-ball guy? He doesn't even shoot. I don't even know if he's taking any threes yet still. So to me, that's going to be the weird thing that he has to sort out. But in terms of raw talent, Giannis can carry a team. Doncic can carry a team. Ben Simmons is just a phenomenal player on it, individually. But you also got, great scorer / shooter in McCollum. And he's got 2 solid centers, Steven Adams, Montrezl Harrell, whoever he wants to play. You want to go bigger? Steven Adams. You want to go with more mobility? Montrezl Harrell at center. That's cool. And then, when you go to the bench, you could throw Doncic back at point guard. See, if Simmons needs to sit, you throw Doncic at point guard. You throw De'Aaron Fox in there. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see. But the reason why he's number 1 is because he's got pure star power. I mean, Giannis, like I said, Giannis can carry a team. Like if y'all ever play 2K as a human, player playing 2K, you can drop 50 with Giannis easily. And you probably never picked up the control, like a PS4 controller in your life. You could drop 50 with Giannis easily. You could drop, a easy triple-double with Doncic easily. Ben Simmons, triple-double easily. So to me, that's if you're playing 2K, but I don't know how the CPU is going to make this work together, and that's going to be the weird thing. It's going to be a scary thing, to be honest. But he's got other guys. He's got other guys that can shoot. I know Fournier is a good shooter. He's got pieces off the bench, Julius Randle and Bielitsa, I think can shoot as well. And Bogdanovich is another shooter. So you could put some shooters around these guys. Doncic is a guy that can find guys. Ben Simmons is a guy that can find guys. So it'll be interesting to see where he puts this. I said this before, and with Vin, with Vin's team, I said, if he had Trae Young on this team, this would be phenomenal. This would be the same thing here with Ronnie. If this was Trae Young or Kemba Walker or Steph Curry, or a guy that that can also be very effective off ball, then you could just throw Doncic in there as the ball handler and then let Steph reign. So, and then Giannis inside. So to me, off the bat, looking at Ronnie's team, this was clearly the best team. Yeah, it just has the most raw star power. The problem, of course, is still going to be how he gets it to work. So that's why I think that it's still anybody's ball game. He might be the number 1 seed team in terms of how I see it. He's the number 1 ranked team in terms of how I see it. But anybody can win. My team can win. Mike's team is scary. Vin has LeBron. Nin has pure scores. Unu has this cool niche system here with Trae Young and James Harden and such. Mine with the flexibility and all that. And Joe's got AD. Joe's got AD, and he's got a little three-way tandem here with Kemba and Jimmy Butler and AD. But it's gonna be interesting to see how these teams are gonna match up. So if I were to be evaluating all the series, I'm just gonna go through the first round. But I'm thinking, you got the play-in series between Johnny and Tim, which would be interesting. I think Johnny's team is, especially since I ranked him this way, is gonna win. I don't think Tim's team is gonna even get 2 wins. I think it'll probably be like a 4-1 series. It's just because Tim doesn't have the guys on the wings. He doesn't. A lot of his guys are gonna be his best guys are gonna be sitting on the bench, and so I think Johnny has enough balance. He's got enough from different positions to make a difference. I think he'll advance, and then he will end up playing the number 1 seed, Unu, right? If he's playing Unu, I'm going to tell you right now, man, Gallinari ain't holding James Harden. Maybe he throw Oladipo and James Harden, but then who holding Trae Young? Porzingis, Adebayo, great pieces. But the thing is, when you actually really look at the pieces that, if you compare them side by side on 2K, Johnny's not that far off from Unu. He's really not. He's not that far off. The difference is that he has Trae Young and James Harden. But if you look across the board after that, Adebayo matches up with Vucci. Porzingis and Sabonis. They're pretty much like the same kind of guy, And then you're looking at, let's say I'm starting Oladipo at the 2 guard and I got Drew Holiday at the 2 guard. Same kind of. It's the same kind of guy, in my opinion. So Trae Young, I have him definitely over Kyle Lowry. If I'm moving James Harden to the small forward position and I got Gallinari, must I say more? I mean, James Harden is just way better. If you look at the bench, Van Vliet to Brogdon, similar, right? You got DeJounte Murray, and I don't know who's gonna play as his reserve wing. Maybe it's OG, but in terms of Nurkic, and maybe Nurkic has the edge. Valanciunas, he has the big man, depth. Jay Lamb has better big man depth, but I think the star power is gonna be what matters most, because Trae Young and James Harden, those are the guys that are gonna be dropping 30, 40 apiece. Who is Jay Lamb gonna revolve? Who is Johnny gonna resort to when it comes to getting them some buckets? And I don't know if Oladipo is gonna be that guy. I don't know if Kyle Lowry is gonna be that guy. And Vucci up against Adebayo, I don't know about that either. So Unu's got a lot of size inside, despite the fact that he is gonna run this, up-tempo offense. Oh, we don't know yet, because we haven't drafted we haven't been assigned coaches and stuff like that yet. So it'll be interesting to see how that matches up. But in terms of on paper, I think Unu's got the best team, just simply because he's got the two X factors right there, Trae Young and James Harden. So the next matchup would be Kobe beef. Who's Kobe beef? This is Nin, right? Is this Nin? Yeah, this is Nin. So we got Nin up against Mike. Oh, man, this is gonna be. I just got done talking about. Oh my God, this is the best series right here. I don't even need to look at the other series. This is gonna be the best series in the first round. It's gonna be pure offense. He's got Dame versus Steph. It's got Bradley Beal versus D Book. I mean, seriously, bro. We're talking about, Dame and Steph right now, they're like 1A, 1B right now in terms of best point guard in the league. You look at the number 2 spot after James Harden, who's the number 2 best shooting guard? Oh, okay, throw in Klay Thompson right now, right? But let's say we're not talking, Klay Thompson, because he's not in the 2K tournament. Who's the next best guy? Is it Bradley Beal or is it D Book? I like both those guys. And then Middleton and Siakam is going to be a matchup. I think the problem here for Nin, like I said, is, or it could be the problem for Mike, is that Nin's too small here, and Mike's got the flexibility to go big. If he's got Cat and he's got Drummond. If he doesn't want to run Drummond and he throws Cat at center, and then maybe goes with I don't know, Jaren Jackson at power forward, maybe to hold Jason. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see, because he's got other guys too, like Aaron Gordon and stuff like that. How do you even count it? Because Mike's got a really deep bench here, man. He's got Aaron Gordon who I think at the 11th spot, but he's got a lot of different pieces, Pascal, stuff like that. So, man, it's gonna be really cool to watch. This is definitely the best series, because you got pure scores everywhere, both sides of the ball. This is gonna be interesting. I definitely think this series is probably going to go 6-7 games, right? 6-7 games. I think Mike wins because he has, man, now I'm really looking at this team. Mike's got a really fucking good team, man. But I do think this is probably going to be a 6-7 game series. I think Nin's going to have enough juice to get some wins. But I think Mike's just going to have the better balance. And that's why I had him ranked number 3. So we got the number 3, number 6 teams. I think this would be Joe and Ronnie. Ooh. So you got Joe and Ronnie. And man, I'm just gonna say, man, Ronnie's gonna eat this team alive, bro. And this is why it was gonna be tough for me anyways to join this tournament, because I knew that this was gonna happen. If I would have had Joe's team, I would have ran up against Ronnie, or if I had Vin's team, I would be running up against Mike or Mai or something, and then that would be a 50-50 toss. So the way I look at it here is that I think Giannis can hold AD. I think Joe has some holes, right? He doesn't really have a established number 2 guard, and I think that, to me, if it were me, I would have thrown Buddy Hield in there. But who's holding Simmons, man? It's not gonna be Kemba. Who's holding Doncic, man? It's not gonna be Kemba. If Kemba's probably gonna have to chase McCollum, right? And then you gotta have to throw in Jimmy Butler on like Doncic or something like that. But then if you throw Jimmy Butler on Doncic, then you know they got the option to run the offense through Simmons, and so it's just too much flexibility on Ronnie's side and too much star power. I think all right, cancel out Giannis and AD, but he still has Doncic, he still has Simmons, he still has De'Aaron Fox off the bench. Well, then you'll be like, well, I got Jamal Murray off the bench, and you know I might not match up to McCollum with Buddy Hield or Andrew Wiggins, but you know Kemba Walker is still a guy. Jimmy Butler is still a guy. It'll be interesting to see. I think in terms of how I don't think Ronnie's gonna dominate. Now that I think about it, I'm looking at it. I think Joe has enough, right? Still has some flexibility. I think Joe has enough to get maybe 1 or 2 games. But I would, if Ronnie were to go 4-1 or 4-0, it wouldn't shock me because he just simply has too much star power, and it'll be interesting to see. This is not the most fun matchup, but it'll be interesting to see. It's basically going to be a Giannis versus AD matchup. But man, I've been talking for nearly a whole hour, so I'm gonna wrap it up in these last few minutes. Our last matchup at the 4-5 spot, it's gonna be Vin and Mai, and those are who I think, respectively, are the 4 and 2 seeds, or 4 and 2 ranks in my book. Mai's team, to me, this is gonna be another good matchup. To be honest, it's gonna be basically Kawhi versus LeBron. Again. And then we're gonna see some point guard duel with Westbrook and D'Lo. I like to see if Marcus Smart is gonna get utilized here. Paul George and Kawhi, whether you're gonna put him on LeBron or you're gonna put him on Donovan Mitchell or whoever he decides to put at the shooting guard position, small forward, power forward position. It's going to be interesting here because you might see instead of going with John Collins, he might run with Robert Covington a little bit more, give him a little bit more minutes to guard guys like Brandon Ingram and Tobias Harris. It'll be really cool to see. But the thing with Vin is that if Mai also is probably going to start Whiteside at center, and that's going to be difficult for Vin because if he does do that, then you can't start LeBron at center. You can't do LeBron at center. You got to move him at power forward. You got to move one of your scorers back into your bench and then start DeAndre, which to me is not optimal because in terms of overall contributions, DeAndre is just going to be a guy that is just another big body that's going to get you rebounds and then maybe defense, I guess. But other than that, you losing, another guy who's flexible, whether it be Tobias, whether it be Brandon Ingram, whether he decides to start DeRozan. I don't know what Vin is thinking here, in terms of how he's gonna, adjust his lineup. But it's gonna be difficult for Vin, I think, here, because Mai's got all the flexibility on his side. Everything that Vin could do, Mai has an answer for. But whatever Mai could do, Vin might not have the answer for. And that's what I'm thinking about. Because Vin doesn't have those flexible guys. Which is why I think maybe, okay, well, he has to start thinking about throwing Draymond Green into the series. Because that's a flexible guy that he can get to, guard a guy like Paul George or Kawhi Leonard or John Collins, right? And so it's going to be very interesting. This is basically going to be it's just going to be a series where you're just counteracting from what happened from the previous game. I think that's what's going to happen a lot. I think that's why Mai has a great team, because he could look and evaluate game 1 and then be like, oh, I'm just going to do this on game 2. I don't think a lot of other teams can do that. We give everyone the opportunity and the free will to go and do that. But are you really going to be making a lot of adjustments to your team if you're someone like Unu or if you're someone like Johnny? I mean, who are you replacing Sabonis with in your lineup? You're not going to go bigger and throw in like Valanciunas at power forward. That's just not going to happen, right? To me, it's just, Mai has that flexibility. He can go and be like, well, I'm gonna have John Collins off the bench, 25 minutes off the bench, but I'm gonna start Rocco instead, because, well, you might say, well, Rocco is a lesser player, but in terms of what I need, in terms of defense, with guys like him and Smart, I'll focus defense first. I'm gonna get buckets with Kawhi and Paul George, and then if I need some extra firepower off the bench, I got John Collins to come off the bench. I got Bogdanovich. So I think Vin doesn't have that. Well, who do I have to stop Kawhi? Well, okay, throw in LeBron. Well, then who's gonna stop Paul George? Maybe Draymond? Or then who's going to stop John Collins and D'Lo? Well, maybe D'Lo gets negated by Westbrook. But then John Collins at that point, well, you don't have another answer there, right? I don't think Vin has enough answers for Mai's offensive power, but Mai has enough defensive pieces to answer Vin. And so that's why I think this is going to be a tight matchup, but I think Mai will edge out, I think, here. I think this will be a 6-game series because LeBron is too good, and LeBron is good enough to win a game on his own, win games on his own. Him and Steph are two guys in 2K that can win games on their own. Giannis probably as well. So there you have it, man. That's my rankings. That's my predictions for the first round. I know at the end there, I kind of I was starting to give away. My voice is getting dry as hell. But this is gonna be really fun, guys. I think we're all gonna enjoy this to an extensive degree, because we haven't had sports in a long time, and when you guys, especially guys who haven't been that aren't familiar with 2K, guys, for me, when sports had just been cut off in March, basketball was gone, I was watching 2K simulations all day. There was a time I was making my album and I was sitting at the crib with the boys, and we just turned on the 2K sim. We posted it on Instagram. We were like, hey, if anybody want to get their money in, just get their money in. Here's the spread. And then we had just streamed the 2K simulation, and we were spotting money as the bookie, and we were just watching sports. It was fun. And we did that all day for one day, and it was really fun. We were drinking and stuff. So I think that, this is going to be something where we're going to, find to be in a successful event. I think this might be something we even consider, again, one day in the future. I know, that, we're done with fantasy, but fantasy is a season-long thing. 2K tourney, just a 2-week event, So if this turns out cool, I think we could see this come back again in future. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I'm tired as hell, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a long while, so because this has been something that's been interesting, been totally exciting, especially since I definitely was considering joining with Twan's team, but I just don't think it has enough for me to want to join. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll probably come back with another one when we get past the first and second rounds, and then when we start to evaluate the championship game. I think it's the first round, right? First round, the first weekend. So the second week will be the championship round. So when we get there, it's gonna be really interesting to see. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Good luck to y'all teams. I hope y'all bless the minute allocations, and y'all get the best coaches y'all can for your teams and all that. So yeah, man, I'ma holler at y'all. Alright, deuce.